Hey there, listeners. Welcome to Shit That Goes On to Our Heads, the podcast where we normalize conversations around mental health.
That's right. I'm Dirty Skittles, and alongside my amazing co-host, G-Rex, we are here to share stories and tips from our incredible guests.
Each episode, we deep dive into struggles and triumphs of mental health, offering practical advice and heartfelt support.
Because no one should feel alone in their journey. Join us as we break the stigma and build a community of understanding and compassion.
Tune in and let's start talking about the shit that goes on in our heads. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. I'm G-Rex with my amazing co-host, Dirty Skittles, and today we have an amazing guest. Welcome, Susan. I'm so excited to have you on.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. It's very lovely to meet you both.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too. So what time is it where you're at?
8 o'clock Sunday morning.
Okay. And I saw you drinking a beverage. Is it tea or are you a coffee person?
In the morning coffee.
Nice.
Good God.
That is my love language. Although to be fair, I do it in the morning, the noon, the night. I have my coffee. Yeah, we invested this year in an actual espresso machine. Like it looks like we have a Starbucks upstairs and we hooked it up to a water line. Best move ever.
Yeah.
Curious about my coffee.
I do. It's either that or somebody has to die. It's either coffee in the morning or there'll be a death in the family somewhere. I find. The cats are just scattered. They go,
They're like, we've seen this before. We got to go.
That's right.
I love this conversation. So for our listeners, Susan is in Australia, so she's actually a day ahead of us. So she's talking to us from the future.
It's the closest we get to time travel. Yeah,
I think so. So what's it like in the future?
It's pretty dreary. Politically wise, it's bad. It's really bad, scary. The environment's still, stuffed, but still.
I'm just going to go back to bed then.
Yeah.
Just don't get up tomorrow. You'll be fine.
I know, right? I love your background, Susan.
Yes, it's the art therapist in me. You can't do anything subtly. There's no beige in my life. It's just a wow.
I love it though. It kind of looks like Skittles, right?
It does.
Taste the rainbow.
Yeah, right. Exactly right.
Don't pick them up off the floor and eat them.
No.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Did you make that? Is that like an actual art?
I might have done. I can't remember. There's a few I made with Canva, and there was a few that I found. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I thought, well, that's just marvelous. I put the logo on. Where am I? Yeah, the logo on.
Yeah, it's really nice though. I like it a lot. So I understand you do art.
Yeah, I'm a mindful art therapist, which is a bit of a mouthful, particularly at this hour in the morning. But we use art as a form of therapy, I suppose, in short. And so rather it can bypass talk therapy. You can work with your psychologist or therapist in some way and do art therapy. It's also something people can use in the interim building up. So I assume it's the same all over the world where there are 6 to 12-month waits to see a psychologist. And during COVID, a lot of psychologists stopped taking on new patients or they just quit because it was too hard. And it's also frightfully expensive. So art therapy is something you can use in the interim to help yourself. And that's one of the reasons I've sort of got into writing books as well. So, yeah.
Nice. That's really cool. I remember kind of joking with G-Rex when I first went into therapy. One of the things my therapist had recommended, because I think I'm completely guessing, but I tend to be pretty OCD, like controlling about certain things in my life that I have zero control over. And it stresses me out, right? And I remember her giving me, still to this day, it was one of the hardest things that I did besides working through trauma, right? She's, I want you to find 15 minutes. Eventually we worked up to 30, where you sit down and you do something artful, like creative, be creative.
Excellent.
And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to probably paint then, because I have at that time he was 6 years old and we had canvases and paint. And so I'm like, I'll just do that. I'll grab that and we'll just use that. And she's okay, but when you do it, I don't want you to prepare for it. Don't go out and find this image you want to recreate, and then I will control that, right? Like just play music, do whatever you got to do to get in that mood and just release, right? And it was so difficult and so hard because I thought, oh my gosh, what if it looks horrible? Like I need to prepare for this. Obviously I did not do that, but I remember laughing hysterically because I decided at some point I was going to paint my dog. And I was just laughing like a kid. Like I felt free, but also I was laughing at how horrendous the painting looked. And I just had the most fun. And then that became like a thing that I liked doing. Like G-Rex, we even did it on a live. We were like, oh, fuck it. We're just going to paint and just talk and no pressure, just release and just have fun. And it was hard to do, but it was so rewarding.
Yeah, she threw a canvas at me and she's paint. I'm like, okay. Do I get alcohol with this? Because, that's how my mind kind of frees up. But for me, like my creativity is I color. I love the color. There's just something about it that just calms me down and makes my heart smile. And, I usually do color by number or paint by number because I like to see the pretty colors, because sometimes I have a hard time, like if the colors don't match up. I have a little bit of, adult onset OCD. Never been this way, but like nowadays I'm like, okay, those two colors don't match and I want to control this. And so with if you do it on your iPad, you can just erase it. But I find it to be super relaxing for me. And I also crochet. I haven't crocheted for a while because I have pretty bad arthritis in my hands. But when my arthritis doesn't bother me, get out my crochet hooks and people just laugh. They're like, you crochet? And I'm like, it's really damn relaxing.
Yeah.
It is.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's not, like you say, and obviously with crochet, you're making something. But with that sort of process of creation, one of the rules with art therapy is you're not making something to hang on the wall, and it's just a process that matters. Yeah. So it's such an important process. And it's quite interesting because at the user level, if you like, it's very simple. But on that, what's actually going on is really complex, and the science behind it I find really fascinating as well. And you can just making marks on paper for some people can be very difficult because there's fear that you're going to get it wrong, or you're never going to produce a fabulous painting. So that might one day. That's a bit unfair. So that, but with the process of art therapy, it's just basically using art materials of any kind, including writing and sculpture and music, and releasing and finding that joy like you did. Yeah, it's exciting. Well done.
Yeah, we did. I had for one Mother's Day, I had my mom and my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and I did the same thing to them that I did to you, G-Rex, but we did flower pots. So we just had pots and paint and music and food and drinks and no pressure, just paint something fun. And we all laughed about how horrible it looked. But that's exactly what it was. It was just freeing. It was nice. And surprisingly, this horrible photo of my dog, this painting, I've kept because of what it symbolized in that moment of just truly being able to just let go. And I don't know, really, it was very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get into this?
I have quite a high degree in English. I suppose that's in English literature. And a lady asked me to edit her thesis. And I went, oh, yeah, okay. And that was fun. And it was on art therapy. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is a thing? You can actually do this? I was really excited. And I think I've been using art as therapy all my life. I've always considered myself to be arty. But once you get into the science of it too, that's where I, again, find it really fascinating. Yeah, and that was about 7 or 8 years ago, I think. And I went off to study. I was studying mindfulness and always been a meditator, always been interested in meditating and changing your whole physical and your emotional well-being with breathing, which I think is just like the most miraculous thing since sliced bread. I went, and that, and I can sit with someone and they can start making marks on a paper, or we can be talking about something, and the colours they use, the mediums they choose, all those sorts of things indicate or can lead to a discovery of something that's going on that they, emotionally they just need to release or have a look at.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very interesting. Before doing that editing, where you discovered kind of this, you said that you always considered yourself artsy. So were you naturally drawn to kind of create stuff if you were stressed or whatever you were going through?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember having an argument with somebody once and my partner at the time. And I drew these two horses fighting. They was rearing up and trying to kill each other. I'll get you.
Yes. Do you title your pieces? Like May 17th. No, just kidding.
That's right. This will learn you.
Yes. Wrap it up, give it to them.
That's right.
You remember this day? Yeah, I remember it fondly. Here you go.
That's right. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. The last gift ever. Oop, no, I'm just kidding.
No, it's funny because I also do caricatures of people who upset me. And again, something that it's my way of dealing. Yeah, like you might get abused at the car park at the supermarket because you're not quite with it, or something happens. Everyone makes a mistake. If somebody honks a horn and calls you an idiot or something. Mm-hmm. And I went home and I draw them. Yeah, take that. Who's the effing idiot now, mate? Look at that. And then I put it away.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you fold it up, put it on the windshield, and then just keep trying.
No, I'm not that brave. And it's a lot of fun too. Sometimes I just laugh. Yeah.
Yeah, but do you feel a release after? You're like, got that feeling out of the way, move on to the next.
Exactly. And it helps me put the whole thing in perspective too. Because I suffer from anxiety and all sorts of things. And yeah, it helps me. You kind of also consider the lighter side of the situation. And I think it's really quite important because when you're suffering like that and when somebody upsets you and you think, oh, what am I going to do? And yeah, it's nice to be able to, I don't know, feel that a joy and a sense of power too, that you can get back. You can get it back, even though they've gone on their way and no idea what you're up to.
Do you keep the pieces that you make?
Some of them I do. Yeah, I have a journal. I have 2 or 3 journals. Yeah, so it's part of the art therapy, I suppose, mantra is keeping a journal. And a journal can be like a scrapbook. It can just be lots of scribbles. I might use it to, work through, do some sketches for a painting. But a lot of the times, if I'm upset, if things haven't worked out well, I'll choose something and just do something in it. And I think it's really, I sat down with a young preteen a few weeks ago and we just met and I was talking to her and I said she loved art. And I said to her, oh, do you have a journal? She was like, do I? It was just gorgeous. She was like, I have loads. The Australian vernacular. Yeah, we usually say shitloads. I have shitloads, but she was like,
I was one of those. I would write really bad poetry. Well, let me give myself credit. I thought they were great in the moment, but I had tons of journals of just poems of whatever I was feeling in the moment. And I think my mom probably still has some of them. But yeah, it just was a way to say what was happening inside my brain that it didn't have to be well thought out or put together. It was just emotions. And I thought that was really cool.
Oh, absolutely.
I need to get back to it.
Yeah.
What about you, G-Rex?
Yeah.
Yeah.
G-Rex.
So I just write journal, just a way to get the shit that's in your head on a paper because, eventually, you just don't want it in there anymore.
Absolutely.
But I've been crocheting pretty much my entire life, play piano, reteaching myself how to do that, coloring, just like whatever I feel like doing at the time, also like just writing. Writing is like my form of being creative.
Yeah.
Sharing my story, sharing my journey and things like that. And, it was kind of funny. Somebody asked me if I'd write a PC version of my book. I don't think that's going to happen because, I want it to be authentic, right? Like when I'm writing or if I'm doing something, I want it to be the authentic me. I don't want it to be something that's sugar coated or something watered down that would appease to somebody else.
Yeah.
If you know me, I use the F word a lot.
Yep. Sentence enhancers, I believe.
Yes, they are sentence enhancers. Yeah.
I love that.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not, man? Just go for it. That's hilarious.
But it's also the part of that honesty, isn't it? And that integrity that you bring to your writing. This to use or swear words or curse words. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's super helpful. Like me learning like to kind of let go through that painting exercise was one. The other one that I remember really being fond of, and I call it my happy album, was taking pictures of things that made me happy throughout the day.
Yep.
And it was a way to kind of connect back with who you were. Like, you know, everybody kind of goes through their own thing. And I remember kind of losing sight of who I was, right? Because as the time was, I was so invested in the partner I had. And, you know, when that didn't work out, I just remember kind of being lost. Who am I, right? And going into therapy, the therapist advised, you know, maybe throughout your day, whenever you feel a happy emotion, take a picture of whatever it is you're looking at. And I did that. And I don't know why it worked, but it was this very artful kind of way to sort of just capture that moment and remind myself, oh, I do these things. Or my morning cup of coffee was one of the photos. Or there was a truck where all these paint cans fell off the back of it. And there was all these bright splattered colors on the highway. And I was like, oh my gosh, probably shouldn't have been taking a picture on the highway driving, but nonetheless, snapping photos and finding pretty moments, you know, to kind of.
And that's what keeps us grounded. And I think that's what keeps us real and gets the shit out of your head.
Yeah.
Is that reminder of what's really important. It builds a sense of gratitude, which I think is horrendously important. I think there was a scientific research done, and the three things that make you happy: gratitude, empathy, and kindness. So all of those things are about they're external, really, aren't they? You know, you've got to be kind to yourself, but to others. You show empathy to others who are in pain and suffering. Mm-hmm. And we are grateful for what we have. And if it's just being able to make a cup of coffee in the morning.
Right.
It's so important. And a celebration of those little things, like whether it's a caterpillar going up a leaf or paint tins. Paint tins sounds exciting. I'd been out of the car.
It was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd been really interesting. But yeah, I think they're those wonderful little things that we can all do. So we can, every day for a month, you can take 3 photos of things that bring you joy. Yeah. And it's one of those, it's just lovely. It's just lovely to hear those sorts of stories. I think it's really important.
Yeah. And it works, which is, you know, I don't know why it does, but it does. It made me feel better. It worked. Same thing with the painting. So yeah, I wonder if more people would do it if they knew more about it. You know what I mean? Like it took you editing something, it kind of just sort of fell into your lap and you're like, oh shit, this is like a real thing.
Yeah. And art therapy is about 100 years old, 80 to 100 years old. So it's been around for quite some time. I obviously discovered it by accident, but part of my, mission is to spread the word and to be a guest, podcasts like this and to write and talk and just try to get people to embrace that they have this beautiful inner creativity that's so important.
Yeah. Do you set aside time every day to do this for yourself?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I try to, even if it's only just for a few minutes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think it's important that we don't put away our art materials, whether, I do like to be tidy. It's one of my things. But you can have it sitting somewhere where you can grab a packet of markers and a pen, paper, anything like that.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, like I have my coloring books on my desk, right? So sometimes like when I'm in a meeting, if it's not something I have to pay attention to, I like to doodle. So having my coloring book there with my gel pens, it's just calming, right? Or if I've had a bad interaction with somebody and I'm like, I just got off the phone, I'll doodle for a few minutes just to kind of recenter myself, because it's a whole lot better than, going and yelling at somebody and calling them a dickhead. But just finding ways to make me happy. And so I find like when I'm using my hands or if I'm being creative, I feel better. And I use Dirty Skittles trick with the photos. So like this past week has just been like pretty hard. And I went back to, it's a folder on my phone of things that make me happy. And I went back and just looked at it and I got to see the mama deer with her fawn, and I got to see the woodchuck, and I got to see, the flowers that I've taken and, beautiful places that I've been that always made me happy. And it just brought me back it brought me back to center, and then I could just like move on with my day. But I think art therapy is like the coolest thing. And, when I was growing up, number one, we didn't talk about mental health, when I was growing up. And we didn't talk about art therapy or things like that. So bringing this, to light now is such a great way to kind of deal with those emotions that are going on in your head, just get to a better place, like a calming place.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you don't need expensive materials. You can do it with a pen and the back of a bit of junk mail or something. It's really important. And, I might encourage a client to use a particular medium. So if their anxiety is, quite heightened, and if they're feeling a little bit too stressed, things like gel pens, because you have to use them very slowly, kind of force you or kind of bring your brain level down a little bit and help you be more centered and calm. But for people perhaps who are depressed or feeling very low, painting, because that beauty, it's quick and it's fluid, and and it's also that process of being mindful of how it feels and smells, and it's really cool. Well done.
Yeah. And I think what's cool about this specific subject is like therapy doesn't have to be like sitting in a room, like on the couch, talking to somebody, you know what I mean? Like it can be something that, this is going to sound messed up, but I was going to say it could be something you actually enjoy. Like I'm a creative person. So anytime I can actually make something, I love it. That's my happy place. So even if it's a bad painting, I want to start getting into pottery. I want to, form shit with my hands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, it's good fun. Yeah. And I use Play-Doh. And sometimes, you can use it just as a de-stress, just that process of squeezing it or shaping it. Sometimes I might get, particularly because I worked a bit with preteens, is I'll encourage them to create a little being that represents perhaps their anxiety, or something that they're going through. And then that is what, they can mold it and shape it as well. So again, it's a process of empowering with your hands. And like you say, some people dread going to see the traditional talk therapy. They don't feel like that, it's such hard work being able to intellectualize and vocalize these really strange feelings that are happening, that can be so nuanced and so quite specific to them. I might say, I was feeling angry today. And that will mean so many different things to different people. Just something as simple or as ordinary as anger or even joy. But you can do it with art. You can do it with these beautiful fluid materials or colours or shades.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this for?
Well, if you take off the 7-8 years, I'm very good. About 5-6 years.
Nice.
You take the study really out, cool. I suppose. Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool, though. I'm curious how many things you've created. I immediately go into, man, if I had a journal for every day, like if I could actually dedicate the time to paint something or build something every day, whether it's that little 15-minute block that I give myself. I'm curious if I could reflect back on that. Are you able to reflect back on pieces you made and still find, I don't know, some release in it?
I do. I don't tend to focus too much on them because I think that was the process and that's what I was going through. I tend to, sometimes I share my art journal with my students or my clients and say to them, well, this is what I did. And because I think there's a lot of YouTubers and influencers and people who are using art therapy and they come up with these amazing pieces and they're beautiful and which is great. It looks great, but it's not the real thing. Do you know what I mean? It should be messy. It should be, in a way, art therapy shouldn't look great. I use my journal and go, oh, look, this is a mess I made. Look at that mess.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to get the crayons and go,
Yeah. I was just thinking about that. I'm like, in life, things are messy. So if it was like a perfectly tidy art, I would be like, is this really therapy or is this like a job? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like a work of art, some people's journal. And when I was studying, I remember thinking, that's a beautiful journal. Gee, my girl, it's a lot of fun.
Are you still stressed out? I think you're still stressed out. You need to go back and just do something without even thinking about it. And I don't care how ugly it is. It's you, right? Like
Exactly. Yeah.
I like a lot of stuff that I create, I'm never ever going to show anybody. Some of it ends up in the trash, but I just use it to one, keep my hands busy. So if I'm on a call, my hands have to be busy. So I do have Silly Putty. I play with it all day long. And I also use it to figure out what kind of mood I'm in, because sometimes I'm in this in-between mood. I don't know if I'm like pissed off or if I'm sad. I'm like kind of in that facade moment. And I just try to figure out what it is by drawing. And whatever I draw kind of makes me figure out where I'm at. So if it's all in red, then I know that I'm really in a pissy mood. But if it's in like a yellow, or my sad colors usually are like yellows and blues. And so if and I don't even really think about what pen I'm picking up, right? I don't even look at it. I just pick it up and I'm like, oh, I must have been in this kind of mood. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the less thought you put in, the better. Because the more thought you put in, the more you try to control it and justify it and make it logical and make it work. Whereas that's not how art therapy is. It's about picking a color. And, like green is the color that, well, as you all know, that, colors have a negative and a positive. So green is the color of growth and nature. And it's one of my favorite colors, but it's also the color of envy and jealousy. And, so it's interesting. And to do things like circles, just to sit and draw some circles. Yeah. And that can be very calming. But again, like you go for red, that's the color of love, passion, and anger. Yucky stuff.
Yeah. I love green. Green is also my favorite color. So
yeah, my absolutely favorite color is green.
Oh,
really? Yours?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love green. We were literally just talking about it because I like two shades of green. One is, I don't know how else to explain it other than Ulti green. I love Ulti green, which is a company we both worked for, which is this bright, vibrant green. And then the other one is more like a forest, kind of dark green. So my jam. That and purple. Purple's probably next up, but I don't know what purple represents.
But you're crazy.
That I'm crazy. So how do you recommend, if somebody's listening to this for the first time and hearing this for the first time, what sort of advice would you give them or steps on how to start?
Sure. There's lots of stuff online. I have a website. I have books available, as do others. Excuse me. So I would just start having a look around, finding something that resonates, perhaps something you can do online. There's lots of stuff. Don't worry about the end product. Just do it. Just have fun with it and explore it. And, in my books, I talk people through about creating a proper space, whether that's a dedicated art space or just, you said you had your 15 minutes to sit down and do something. Maybe you might want to play some beautiful music, some figure your own frequencies, which are some of my favorite things at the moment. And just do it. Just have fun with it. Take back the crayons. It's one of my favorite sayings at the moment. Don't, if you've got kids, take the crayons back off them for a little while. Give them back to it, or keep them for yourself. Get them some more and just find that power again that art can give to you. Yeah, I think that's really important.
I like that.
Just give it a go. That's my advice.
Yeah, try it out. I like the idea of setting the space too, because I think that was part of it for me, was the intention, right? The space, the time, make it as pleasurable as possible. And then just jump in. It's fun.
Yeah, and put your phone away.
Yeah.
Yes, put the phone away. Yes.
I've literally started to do that on Sundays. I am off the phone as much as possible, and I do not go on social media. I am free birding on Sundays. And I'm gonna have to get back into art. I haven't painted it probably, I think, G-Rex, since last time you and I were together.
That's a long time. That was last November.
I know. But to be fair, there are other art forms. So I think creating, I will eventually be self-employed. But one of the things I like to do is, if I hear a song, sometimes I will imagine what the art of that song looks like, or there's an image that I will create. I just don't draw it because I'm not an artist, but I can come up with a pretty good idea for something. And that's been my favorite thing, is to find a way to create it online. I don't know. It's fun. So I'm still creating. I guess what's the point of that?
I think we're both creating, just even the podcast, as creators, right? Because we both get joy out of this, and we never script anything on the show. So it's kind of whatever comes from our heart and our head when we're talking. And I get a ton of joy out of this. Not only do I get a ton of joy, but I learn so much. And it's stuff that I can, apply back to my own life. And I that's what I love about it.
Yeah, people can be creative in the garden. Can't you? You can, just by putting a garden bed in, there's a level of creativity involved. And I think it's a celebration of what makes us quite unique as human beings too. It's really good.
Yeah. Okay, so I have some questions.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm going to have another drink. Quick.
Dun, 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 dun.
These are two of my favorite questions to ask, and then one I just started literally today. If you could relive any day of your life without changing a thing, what day would it be?
Oh, I always think back to the time when my children were quite little. So now I have grandchildren, my children in their 30s. And I just that time after school where I would walk and pick them up from school. We'd come home and they'd have afternoon tea, and we'd watch. There used to be some really good quality children's television shows that were at that level where an adult could really enjoy them. And I suppose I'd love to do that again. I'd like to walk back into that room.
Yeah, I like
when
that.
They're really tight, when they're real tight.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. If you could travel back in time to a younger version of yourself and give yourself a bit of advice, what would you say, and how old are you when you go back?
Oh, I think probably that 11, maybe 12-year-old just got into high school. Or, we only have two. We have primary and secondary college here. So what would I say to myself? Oh, I'd say just to be true to myself. I think and trust your intuition. Yeah, I think that's an important lesson for all of us, but particularly at that age where you suddenly hit teenagehood and things can just go really bad.
Yes, they can.
They can. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, I can.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think maybe something, I don't know, that's maybe not sort of specific enough, but just being honest and being true to yourself. Yeah. And enjoy who you are.
Yeah, I love that. I wonder, man, 13-year-old Dirty Skittles. I don't know. That was a moment. That was a moment. Okay, next one. What is the hardest lesson you have had to learn to date?
Oh, the hardest lesson, I'll be going back. I think that I'm okay the way I am and where I am, and that's okay. And I remember somebody saying to me that years ago, it's okay to not be okay. And this was, it was 15, maybe 20 years ago. So before we were talking a lot about mental health. We knew it existed. We knew that something had to change, but we didn't have the tools or the understanding. I think I'm talking as a society. And for me, that was probably, the most important thing to accept that I'm okay the way I am, that perhaps this is where the universe wants me, or God, whatever you sort of pray to or think about, or I think it's cool, whatever you use. I don't think one's better than the other. I think we tend to use tools that we need. And I think, that's just that sense of that I'm okay, that it's okay. Today's okay. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
And stop trying to be able to achieve everything. Stop it.
I sometimes wonder about that because I'm like, I think where I'm at now is obviously it's so much better than where I started, right? But I sometimes wonder, damn, why did it take me so long to hear that kind of a message and know I think for a long time, not that I ran away from who I was, but I didn't think I could be that version of myself. And I don't know where that comes from, right? But eventually you get to a place where at least I would hope everybody does, where you're able to acknowledge that is me. And not only can I embrace it, but I can completely just dive into it head first. Oh, this is all my shit. Admitting, oh, I like to stay at home, or I like to read books, or I like spooky things. And I don't know why I hid from that for so long. And now I'm like, there's little parts of me that I'm loving.
And giving yourself that permission.
Yeah.
To not, and giving yourself permission to not be okay.
Right.
You know, And somebody said to me, like, be careful, because after she had COVID, she got really depressed. Really, and she said, I've never experienced anything like that before. And it's okay. I say, well, it's okay. Don't fight it. Just, my advice is, you're feeling sad, then you're feeling sad. That's okay.
Right. Yeah.
So,
isn't that?
Yeah. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to justify it. You can just say, I don't feel okay today. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
And I think that, we need to have that. It's a sense of empowerment. Anyway.
That's exactly what it is. It's so crazy, because then when you hear somebody else say it, it just seems like so simple, but it takes a lot to get there, for yourself.
It does. Yeah. And that it's okay not to be okay. The really tragic thing for me is that person took their own life.
Oh.
And it's still something that sits really badly within me. It's like this thing that really upsets me, because at that time, we could acknowledge that was okay, but I don't think any of us really completely understood what that means and what it means to be not okay in a world where it's, where we were we didn't have the language. And this is one of the powers of art therapy, is you don't need the language to express your trauma. You don't need to be able to have the words to perfectly showcase or tell someone how you're feeling. You can do it with pens. You can do it with pencils. And you can understand it, and a therapist might be able to talk you through it. But it doesn't matter if no one else understands it.
Really?
You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah. So,
it does.
Yeah. And I think it's really to sort of take control of your mental well-being and your journey, but also accept that maybe nobody's going to completely understand it as well. Yeah. And like I've been to talk therapy. I don't enjoy it at all. I kind of feel that I'm a bit of a bird, that they're looking at their watch going, she finished. Oh, no, she's still talking. Oh.
Can you imagine?
Oh, they're just nodding, going, oh, what's for dinner tonight? Sometimes it's the hardest job in the world to be engaged like that with somebody day after day.
I don't know why I just imagine a therapist with one of the what are they called?
Yeah,
and just hourglass, and just continuously just flip it over again, like just
She's still talking.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's not for everyone, and especially if that's not what you enjoy. Just knowing that there are other ways to find help for yourself that don't include sitting across from somebody and telling them your whole life story.
And it can take, I actually thought it can take, 6 months or so to get used to your therapist and build up a rapport. Apparently, it's about 2 years. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of money as well.
A lot of hourglass flips.
Yeah, exactly right. That's poor out there.
Yeah.
The hourglass will be clogged up in the end.
Yeah.
So, but art therapy, you can bypass that. You don't actually need to, because it's something online as well. Because it's to get about the person. It's so centered on what they want and what they want to achieve.
Yeah,
and they may not understand what they're doing at a conscious level. But your subconscious, I always do this when I talk about my subconscious. So my subconscious must be the back of my head somewhere. I always do this. Oh, my subconscious is up. I don't know where it is. It's probably in my shoe. But wherever it is, It's screaming. It's like, you've got to fix this. All right, you're going to develop PTSD, or you're going to develop some horrid cancer, or your subconscious and your mind will physically manifest things, almost like an alarm bell, to say to you. I mean, like people who get chronic hay fever. Okay, so that's an alarm bell. And there could be 10 people in a room, and they're the only one sneezing. Well, what's really going on there? All right, so at a scientific level, there's their allergies, blah blah blah. But at an emotional level, there's something else going on. Yeah. And that's what I think, that your subconscious is screaming at you, going, do something. Fix this.
Take your medicine.
That's right.
I almost think like that's part of the scary stuff too, because for some of us, like taking the time to invest in yourself and not necessarily know what it is that you need to fix, but just know that there's something that you need to address is almost scary, because you're like, shit, what is it? If I don't know what it is, how will I know to treat it,
Yeah. And you don't need to know without therapy. That's the other beauty. Whereas talk therapy, I feel like I'm dissing down on talk therapy, and it is incredibly important. And the role psychologists do when they will come back, and, the advice they can give, it's priceless in lots of situations. But in art therapy, you can just work through something. And you don't need to be stressed or anxious that you don't have the words, that you can't explain how you're feeling, and that's why, those who've raised teenagers, you'll know that, it's one grunt for this and two grunts for that. I don't know. You were there all day. I don't know how it went. I was there. I don't know. And it's not that they don't know. It's that they don't know how to express it. That complexities of language. And, you go, oh, yeah, it's okay. We all say things, how you feeling? Yeah, I'm okay. How was your day? Oh, it was okay. It's like the word nice. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
The word nice just means it's the opposite of not nice.
Right. Yeah. How was it? It was nice.
It was nice. Yeah. But again, without therapy, you can really get down. You can bypass all that sort of language stuff.
Right. And just really be free.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wish I would have had this knowledge 19 months ago, right? When I was going through all my shit, right? Because I didn't know how to express myself. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what to do. On the outside, I looked perfectly fine. That was good. On the inside, not so much. Negative self-talk. I just hated myself, and I was so depressed. So depressed. And I think that if I had known about art therapy then, I could have started writing or doing something creative to maybe get outside of my head and just get to a better space. But, and I'll say it time and time again, I thank God 988 picked up the phone. Thank God there was that glimmer of hope. And thank God my wife was home. Yeah. Because life on this side of depression is 1,000 times better. But now I have all these tools that I've learned from our guests. And, I can add art therapy to that, because I think I've been doing it my entire life. It never came to me because I was in such a depressed state that I couldn't even help myself. I'm super glad to be here. And I'm laughing and I'm writing and I'm coloring. And you know what? I don't care if people give me crap about coloring. You know what? I like it. Are my pictures pretty? Probably not. Do I care? No, because nobody else is going to see them but me.
And they've done the job.
Yeah.
They've done the job. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's really lovely to feel that, to have that, to go through that sort of state. And I know with me, I got to a point where I never went fully back into that terrible depressive state. It was like my back hit a wall. And every time I moved forward, I'd go back a little bit, but never as back as I went the last time. And I think that's part of our journey and part of our empowerment. And if it takes a long time to get there, then you've done the job. That's okay too. You don't have to be fixed straight away. Yeah.
And I think one of the most important things too is knowing that it's, maybe I shouldn't say it's never, but it is you have to continue to work on yourself. You have to continue to use those tools that work for you. because life is never just boom, everything's going to be great now because you figured out what was bothering you. No, like it will still take work to know who you are and dedicate the time to help yourself.
And you need to trust yourself. You need to trust that you have the ability to help yourself. And there are times where we do need professionals. And there are also times where you can trust yourself to take control and use those gel pens and, crochet avocado or something. I love people say make it crochet at things. That's one of my favorites. I can't crochet because my hands are all crippled up. I'm kind of tendonitis and things like I used to be able to. So I'm kind of jealous when people talk about crocheting. That's very good.
I almost got a loom because my hands I have really bad arthritis in my hands. Yeah. So I have a ton of yarn upstairs. I thought, you know what? We'll just get a loom and then I can make something really pretty. But, then I have to find the time to do that. But with coloring, it's just something it's there. I have all my tools right on my desk. And I can just pick up a pen and I can start drawing or coloring or, write some words down on a piece of paper. That to me is like the perfect way to kind of just get out of that mindset. Like I was telling Dirty Skittles, I had a hard week last week and I actually had to go back and talk to my therapist. My little empathetic heart just had too much. And I had told her what I was doing. And I said, I sat down and I wrote and I did some journaling and I started to feel better. And she said, that's exactly what you needed to do because you needed to take what was going on in your heart and get it onto paper so that you could try and refocus what you needed to focus on. And it really did help. And so did the hour worth of crying. But, that was cathartic.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's true. Thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about this. And I hope for anybody who's listening that this is the first time you're hearing about this, or if you just like to be creative in general, just give it a shot, man. Just take time.
If you don't, do it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Take time.
Yeah.
Just release. I love that.
Susan, where can people find you?
Well, obviously, I was going to say in the south corner of Australia, but probably my door at the moment. I'm just looking at the outside. I'm called Mindful Arts Therapy. So it's Mindful Arts Therapy with an s.com.au. There's that little coloured bird. I get that. You'll see that everywhere, particularly on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, if you look for @Mindful Arts Therapy, you'll find me there. My books are on Amazon. Again, I think if you just search Mindful Arts Therapy, you'll find them. I have 5 activity books. I have a book about empowering and building emotional resilience for preteens. I'm also working on some really exciting books about the power, how women have used art as a power to get their voice across, to talk about issues. So I've got some really exciting books coming up as well. But yeah, if anyone wants to connect, I do love a chat and I'd be happy to talk about it.
Thank you so much, Susan. This was such a great interview. Oh my God.
I've been so excited.
What a perfect way to end our recordings for today.
No, I'm literally going to go upstairs, pour a glass of wine, and color with my son. It'll be fun.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
I love that. Hi, all. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm G-Rex.
And I'm Dirty Skittles.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'd love to listen to your feedback.
We can't do this without you guys.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.